So I'm Linda Reinstein, the co-founder of the Asbestos Disease Awareness Organization. I have the great pleasure of having a conversation with Jordan Zevon, our national spokesperson. And Dr. Wolf, I'm so glad you can have lunch and join us because that is a really cool thing in your scrubs. Um, Art and advocacy has always been important to ADAO, and we've been doing evidence-based advocacy for 20 years. And Jordan has been on that path and trajectory with us for all 20 years. So, Jordan, let's get started in having a casual conversation all about you and your dad, your music, shared goals, and anything else in between. So, for those people who haven't had the opportunity, like I have, to sit down and hear your funny jokes and listen to your brilliant creativity, introduce yourself, please.
I'm Jordan Zevon. I'm the national spokesperson for the Asbestos Disease Awareness Organization, and I'm bald. That's all I got. All right. Thanks, everybody. No,
Not a chance, not a chance. So let's talk a little bit about being in LA, growing up with a father who was an acclaimed musician. There's a lot of issues that can come with that. So tell us early memories of your dad being a musician. What are some of the favorite memories and moments you have as a young boy when you look back to your father?
I mean, I think that they're less about music and more just about because my parents were total hippies, so we grew corn in the backyard, which is not very usual for LA. And and there was always music around. I didn't from about age 3 to about 14 or so, I didn't have a lot of contact with dad because he was going through some issues of his own. But then we made up for it after that, and we were inseparable. And I have great memories of going to movies and everything else. You know, the thing about music being so deep rooted in the family is that you don't really talk about it because that was the work, and we just wanted to like go have lunch or go do something. And then at the end of those lunches, he would play me one of his new songs on his cassette recorder, and that was an incredible experience because I'll make it spicy already. But the first time I heard the song "My Shit's Fucked Up," I was like, "Good God, Dad, that's a great song." So I get to hear these songs, hot off the press. Um, but like we didn't do a lot of like jamming together or anything like that. Like I was playing drums on pillows and pots and pans when I was old enough to move my hands. So I was very focused on music my whole life. But uh, I don't know. I didn't really, he gave me some great insights every once in a while that I really clung to, but we didn't. There wasn't a whole lot of music talk.
That's fair. Well, you were in LA during all of the Canyon stuff, where artists knew rock and roll was taking place. You were obviously born after. Obviously, I'm going to be 70, so growing up in the Canyon, that was where all the hip and trendy artists were, and came together. So I'm sure you have great memories and moments you want to share. As far as learning from your father, what's one of the strongest takeaway messages? And it can be humor, it can be serious. What do you remember from latter years with your dad?
Well, he gave me a really great piece of advice about songwriting, and it was that it's really hard. And you don't think about it, but it, and I've always acknowledged that there's people like Dr. Wolf that are doing pretty noble things, and songwriting seems kind of insignificant compared to that. But to to really sit down and finish a song can be hard. And whenever he was writing, I'd see his typewriter in the dining room and little wadded up pieces of paper all over the floor. But for him to say that was like it was almost some kind of like freedom for me because it made me realize, oh, if it's hard for you, then I feel okay with the fact that it's hard for me as well. And he gave me that piece of advice, and the other piece of advice is that when you get a great title, you can just skate from there. And it's true, when if you get the right title for a song, then the song kind of writes itself. So I think you can see that, like, as his career progressed, the song titles kind of got funnier and more interesting. I mean, he has a song called Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead that they named the movie after. Um, but then even like Life Will Kill You, or the Indifference of Heaven, once you kind of have that idea, then I think that it makes it easier to write around that. So I've always kind of kept that in mind as well.
That's interesting. Title comes first. And the idea of your father sitting at a typewriter trying to write lyrics. I mean, there are people on this call that have never put their fingers on a keyboard for a typewriter. We have Sono and all these other Suno and all these other things for music. So obviously the creativity of songwriting has drastically changed. And I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent. I have my own feelings about that, but I love the idea of your father with his glasses sitting there typing away. And clearly one of my favorite songs that your father wrote and sings is My Shit's Fucked Up, because I think that should be a mandatory song every member of Congress could also listen to. All right, let's talk a little bit about your music legacy and growth. So I met you when you were, I think, gosh, I guess you were just early 30s. And having a known father, acclaimed musician, and you also being a musician, that must have had some jibs and jabs as you as a young adult trying to figure out how does your creativity evolve from your father. So let's think about that approach of songwriting. So your father told you it's hard to write songs and you figured out that that's an aha moment. But when you after you lost your father, or your father passed away, I should say, how did your songwriting and your musical career change?
Well, so for me, like I've had a weird relationship with music because I think people don't realize that my father's career was pretty difficult. He's gained a lot more notoriety and popularity since he's passed away. Like, people are starting to get on board, which is amazing. But it was tough work for him. Like, he had to tour to pay the bills, and he had to do it. And one of the things he said to me before he'd gotten sick is like, "What am I going to do when I'm an old man? Like, what the hell am I going to do?" And to see him, as talented as he was, go through that, it kind of took out a little of the spark for me to want to do that. So how it affected me was that I put out that record because I had something to say. I've written 100 songs since then, but I haven't put out another record because uh, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I don't have that, like, I'm so familiar with the reality of the music industry, and also because I was a publicist with Arista Records for a long time. So I've owned a record store, so many different angles of music, and it just kind of like made me a little standoffish to it. So after, because my mom passed away just 6 months, I think it was, after my father, so I had a lot to say. I had to get that out. Um, I don't know if I have that same drive to share the songs that I write now,
Mhm.
but if I was in the perfect situation, like I had a band and a producer and everything, then I'd probably use that to put out another record. But at the same time, I promised Dad that he would be busier than Hendrix, and we've continued to re-release his albums on vinyl, and we did this great box set called Piano Fighter. So it's there's a lot of work to be done in his legacy as well.
Tell for the listeners the name of your EP, the record you released after your father's passing.
Insides Out.
Okay, and they can still get that on Spotify.
Yep.
Yep. So let's go back in time just a tiny bit. And Dr. Wolf is here and she treats mesothelioma patients in New York and around the nation. She's amazing. So when your father was first diagnosed, I'm sure it was similar to when Alan was. Like we couldn't even pronounce the word mesothelioma. You type it in your computer and you get the oh my God reaction. I don't want to make this all about the past and your father's obviously the impact of mesothelioma on him in your life. But can for the people who are attending today, can you share a little bit about what that was like for you and what you learned along the way with your dad's diagnosis?
Uh, it was awful. I remember that at the time I worked for a company called Matchless Amplifiers with my friend Phil, and my dad called me and he was very serious and he said, uh, like, I'm sick. I'm like, what do you mean sick? He's like sick. And I literally remember that the world looked different after that. It's hard to explain, but once I hung up that phone and my whole body was in shock, I just kind of looked around and everything felt like maybe it was a little bit of reality that had been uh, put into my world, but there was just something like that was a pivotal moment where life became before that and after that. Um, and yeah, I I didn't really know how to accept that that was happening. Um, and it was he was almost my age, and he made the record and he accomplished a lot of things, but he was scared. And that was a weird thing to see as a son to I remember him just saying like I'm scared and I went I am too. um yeah, it's just to be dealt that diagnosis and then also for it to be so random and we've never found out where it came from. There's lots of theories and things like that, but we still never know.
And 20 years ago, we didn't have the Dr. Wolves of the world on the cutting edge of change. So for Alan and for your dad, treatment was really difficult. What was that like for you as a young son watching your father? Because I know his choices for no treatment probably impacted you too.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time it was such a, I hate to use the phrase, but such a death sentence that he just didn't want to make himself more sick than he'd already been. He just wanted to power through it and I understand it because with my mom, we went through chemo and she had what started as breast cancer, but it just ravaged her body. Like she had tumors growing out of her head. And I remember taking her for chemo and having to like pick up this frail woman and lay her in the back of the SUV because she couldn't sit. And there's just part of you that thinks, is this worth the pain that she was going through? And I just, you know, I get it. I wasn't. The only thing that had happened was that he started making the record, and then during Christmas break was kind of the worst thing that could have happened to him because he went very dark, and I ended up camping out in front of his door until he finally let me in, and he wasn't taking care of himself. He had groceries delivered to his door that he wasn't eating. They were like, rotting in place. And so that was the opportunity for me to get him nursing staff and get his apartment cleaned up. And so when you went there, there were lights on and there was activity there because he definitely had fallen into a really dark place. I don't know that if he tried to treat it, I don't know. It wasn't his style. It just wasn't. It's like, he's there's a lot of old school tough guy in him. My grandfather was a gangster. So I think that dad was doing the manly thing, or at least he thought it was, and just said, this is the cards I'm dealt, and I'm gonna I'm gonna just play this hand.
Well, the hand, and I know that must have been hard for you, especially as a young son, you're newly married. But every patient deserves to play their hand as they want, right? As family
Yeah,
members, we sometimes want to make suggestions, recommendations, give them the moral support. But at the end of the day, the patient has the choice to choose what they want. Well, looking at your dad's last year career-wise, when I think about the album that he wrote, his interview on Letterman, he left us with some rich treasures. He really did,
yeah,
which I'm sure is bittersweet for you, knowing that your father isn't here, but you have these rich moments and his humor. And the guy was funny. I guess that's where you get your humor from. So
yeah.
let's think a little bit of the balancing and then the new growth for you. So as a young adult man, how did you balance your grief with your father, also during a time when you're building your own career? Did you have any epiphanies along the way of how you could best straddle that fence?
You, something happened when, and I think this is true of a lot of people who go through a grieving process, um, is that they're just my instincts kicked in. And because before he had passed, he put me in charge of the Winds release. He made me an executive producer. I had the task of getting all of these artists to send me their W-9 forms. It's so what would happen is I'm faxing Tom Petty, and he's going, no, no, I don't want any money. I'm like, okay, there's a union and you need to fill out this form. You must get paid. And I had faxed like Springsteen and all of these different people, and I wasn't hearing anything. And then I finally wrote the letter that said, we are so grateful that you want to do this for free, but we can't put this record out unless you send me my forms. And I think within the span of like a day and a half, they all came running in. Um, but because I had been a publicist before, and I had worked with like Notorious Big and Sarah McLachlan, and so I kind of had like my chops. Um, so it was like I knew what to do. I had to fly out and do interviews. I did this, I did that, I did the Letterman thing, and I kind of there was luckily I had an autopilot that had been informed by the years that I had been in a band and this everything else. It just kind of like I knew what I was doing. So it was a great distraction. And then my mom gets sick, and it's like, what the fuck? Yeah, but I it's been amazing for me on this journey, because even when it comes to TV shows and movies using one of dad's songs, I produced a movie when I was in my 20s, and I was the music supervisor, so I know how to just speak that language. So I have this kind of cumulative knowledge that makes it perfect for when I talk to a record label. I know their language. When I talk to a musician, I know their language. And the only thing that's missing from my life is that there's no more record stores, because I would love to be the manager of a record store. That was that was the greatest job that kids will never understand.
I could see you at Tower Records on Sunset. And we all would just go through the vinyls and the covers and all that stuff. Those were really good times. All right. You use your voice. So along with being able to call out for 990s or sorry, 1099s, etc., you have done a myriad of things, wore a lot of hats. The hat that you wear that I really love, not only as my dear friend, but as ADAO's national spokesperson. Tell me what that feels like. Probably gets a little bit wonky at times. What does it feel like to be the spokesperson? What are some of your greatest memories or accomplishments in that role? Because your voice matters. And Jordan, you are so tender, so funny, so talented. And I love you as my friend. And when you mix all that stuff up in the Cuisinart and then you talk about asbestos and what needs to be done, people listen. You do make a difference. Tell us about you.
Well, I think that that's the gift that I've been given through ADAO is that um especially because we don't have a culprit with my father. So it's like, well, we'll tackle the whole damn thing. Like we'll speak out about asbestos and the ban bill that still hasn't happened, and just to inform people. And I've found that when it comes up and I'm talking to somebody, like they want to know, but they don't want to know. Like they want to know about the dangers of asbestos, but at the same time, it's really scary for them. So, I try to inform without, making people fearful. But sometimes you have to say, your old house, that pipe in the basement, if you start whacking at that with a hammer, you're playing with fire. And so I think that it's this balance of educating without terrifying, informing, and of course, I mean, the ban bill is just the part that nobody can ever believe. I think what's the so when I put out my record, I made a joke with my friends saying, let's see how many reviews say something about the apple falling from the tree. And sure enough, like every other, like the apple rolled way far away, or the apple's fallen right here. Um, the same thing that I hear when I talk about the ban bill is no brainer. I hear that phrase every single time I mention the ban bill. That seems like a no brainer. Yeah, it is. But, unfortunately, there's a lot of brainless people in power that aren't doing their job.
Well, no brainer. So if we get a little bit more of that action in the next 2 weeks, that'll be helpful. And I see Charlene on here, and there are a lot of your fans and supporters that have helped us with the ban bill along the way. So for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, the eighth Alan Reinstein Ban Asbestos Now Act, that's eighth in the sense of House and Senate, was introduced September 16th. And we're looking forward to having the government come back to work for a lot of reasons, but also so we can get the bill moving again because we want to ban all fibers and all uses once and for all and not have it be challenged in court because that is really messed up. All right, now let's get fun, hip, and trendy. So, I always tell people I don't work on the maternity floor. When you deal with mesothelioma and other asbestos-caused diseases, usually the end result is like your dad and my late husband Alan. It's not good. Um, so having the the tribute concert on October 24th is really exciting. And people are excited to know who's coming together, what's going to happen. So for those people who might not be dialed in or for a viewer later on who catches the video, tell us about October 24th. What is it? Where is it going to be? And what can people expect?
So it is. I've never. I've done one tribute show, like I guess maybe 10 years ago, which was where I met my fiance. So that was worth it. But I don't really um, get too involved with that kind of thing because look, I'm a bit of a snob. I'm sorry, but like when somebody sends me a song, this is similar to the apple falling from the tree thing. When somebody says they've written a song for my dad, it's like, okay, let me guess. He's a werewolf and he's riding with the headless thing and he's yelling. Like, I know exactly what the song is going to be. And then it is that song. And I'm appreciative of it, but it's just like,
Again,
so what happened with this show is that this group called Wild Honey, who you actually saw one of their shows because that backyard show I played years and years and years ago,
Oh,
that
okay.
was Wild Honey.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And then and for Autism Speaks, I think was the charity that they've represented. And they have these tribute shows, and I sang vocals on the Beach Boys tribute show. And I went to their rehearsals and I saw how like professional and on top of it that these guys were. So they've always threatened to do a Warren Zevon tribute. And then when they finally did it, it was like, okay, this is like the best of both worlds. My best friend Jordan Summers is the musical director along with Nick Vincent. Um, and I've just from the couple of rehearsals that I've attended, it's just like mind blowing. And there's Jackson Browne, there's Jorge Calderon, who's my dad's lifelong co-writer and partner in crime. Uh, Fountains of Wayne, Marshall Crenshaw, Dwight Yoakam just got added to the bill, um, and it's just on and on. It's such a great list of people, and there's a few surprise people that still might come through, but I think we're almost sold out. So you'll just have to hear about it from somebody else.
But what a cool thing to bring all the art and advocacy together as a tribute concert for your father that benefits ADAO and the Autism, Ed Asner's Autism charity is pretty amazing. And then I heard a little bit of a teaser about a silent auction. So for Charlene and other people who look at her face, it's like, oh boy. So so as far as silent auction, tell us a little bit about the mechanism of that, what you might have, and if you're not able to come in person, maybe you and I, between the two sides of our brain, we can get creative. But tell us about the silent auction.
Well, I just know it's going to be very cool because I know that my dad's road manager, Big George Gruel, who was kind of like through the 80s, which were pretty great period of time in dad's life. Um, he he's got photos that you couldn't believe. So he's going to have a lot of one of a kind, never before seen photos. But he even is bringing a wearing blender because there's a line in Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me that says, she put me through some changes, Lord, sort of like a wearing blender, which, by the way, was a Jeopardy clue last week.
No, that's funny.
Warren Zevon sings about something, something, and the answer is a wearing blender.
Well, you gotta love that. So it's going to be great. I don't know if it's going to be recorded, but you and I can talk about fine details later. So if somebody isn't able to join us in person, Jordan and I will do our very, very, very best to share after the
Yeah,
tribute.
there is video that's being shot. So,
I figured so. I mean, you guys are going to have video. All right, so now let's flip. We go from a really tender, intimate, community style tribute concert in a sold out 1,600 person theater to,
uh-oh.
oh, yeah,
That's my fantasy football team.
very good. We'll be looking for the merch. Okay, so let's flip from intimate community to something amazing also, because your father's being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame finally. And we have all signed letters and voted, and it's happening. It's really happening on
Yeah.
November 8th. So let's talk about that event.
I mean, it was the craziest thing because I really had my doubts of whether or not he would get in. And then, as you know, 3 years ago, he was in the nominees list, not the inductees list, but the nominees list. And I stepped out of my comfort zone and just went social media hog wild. And I think we were number 3 in the fan voting, but then he didn't get in. And then the next year, he didn't even get nominated. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm done. And then this year, I'd get this call from a reporter who said, um, hey, I've got this early info because, I want to have a piece ready to publish when the announcement is made. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, it's like your dad's in. Oh, you mean he's nominated? No, no, he's in. He's in as a oh my God, I'm having an old man moment. Influence. this influential something,
Yeah.
whatever the banner was. Um, and I'm like, holy shit, okay. So let's do this. And and now here we are. And I think the show is going to be amazing. I can't tell you anything about it.
Even if I do
Um,
tickle torture to your head and under your arms, you can't.
Stop. Uh, I think that they've announced that Letterman is going to be inducting him, but as far as the performance, I cannot say.
Well, we will save that for the night of November 8th, and then it's going to stream, I believe, on Disney, maybe. You probably know that mechanism. I don't, it's probably not a live stream, right?
I think that there is a live stream of the
Is
whole
there?
show, and then there's going to be like an edited version. So,
Okay. Well, we are very happy to join you on also on November 8th to give you a roaring round of applause because your dad is being inducted, but this just didn't happen. You've been working behind the scenes, keeping his legacy alive, making sure every person knows about your dad, his amazing career, and that he really should have been many years ago inducted. So we all share your joy. So we're excited for you.
and then I have to get Laszlo some TV time.
Okay, we'll keep Lasso. We have wait one more time. We have to screenshot Lasso. Do it one more time, Jay.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Laz.
Welcome, Laszlo. Been part of the Zevon family for 2 weeks. That's a good thing. Okay, let's talk songs. So if anybody's rusty in Warren Zevon music, they can definitely go to Spotify. But if we're going to talk some of the songs, being inducted to the Hall of Fame is a big deal, and it doesn't all happen just from the last album, The Wind. So tell me about three of your favorite and your father's most impactful songs and why those songs might have helped the Academy to look at your father as an inductee.
Well, I think that his entire first album is pretty much one classic song after another. I mean, Carmelita and Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me and Hasten Down the Wind. But for me, Desperados Under the Eaves is really a spectacular song. And funny enough, I was talking to Jackson Browne, name drop, and he was saying how he wants to get the harmonies from that song correct for this show. And luckily, I've have the multi tracks from all of those records, and so I went and pulled up that harmony, and it was like, oh my god, it's like this Beach Boys layered thing. Um, and it just that's what like really took me back. It's like no wonder I love this song so much. If all this stuff is happening, like the strings and this is it's just such a deep layered song. Um, I also really love that song, Indifference of Heaven. I think that that's kind of an underrated song. And Dad and I kind of had a little back and forth issue where some of his later records he pretty much recorded by himself. And I kept saying, Dad, you need a band. I can get you a band. And it's like, no, because we were all kids, but we were also Counting Crows and the Wallflowers and like all these guys who are pretty much incredible players. So I think that uh, the recording kind of did a disservice to some of those songs. So when you hear Dawes cover a song like Hostage Joe, it's like a revelation because the writing is incredible. And or for my next trick, I'll need a volunteer with the line, I could saw a woman in two, but you won't want to look in the box when I'm through. I can make love disappear. For my next trick, I'll need a volunteer. So that I mean, there's a lot of great songs, but Desperados will always be my favorite. And I know that as a kid, it was all about Werewolves of London. I when I was, I guess, about 7 years old, I visited my father at uh God, I don't remember what the hotel was, but he was staying in a hotel in LA, which meant that Crystal probably kicked him out of the house. And so I show up at my dad's hotel room, and he's got a little piano set up. And how I was saying before, like we wanted to do fun things, not musical things. And I made him play me songs. Like I made him play me Werewolves, and he was just kind of like, and he even said, "This movie just opened today. Do you want to go see that?" And I'm like, "No, I want to hear you play." The movie was Star Wars, so that would have been a pretty great thing to say I saw on the opening day. But yeah, I mean, I was just, as I think most people are, I was obsessed with Werewolves, but now I never have to hear it again.
Well, and Lawyers, Guns, and Money,
Yeah.
but Off the Wind, Keep Me in Your Heart is such a tender song that is requested from ADAO all the time, and you're very dear to sing it at different events. It's a tender song that, I mean, must have been hard when you think about your father writing the lyrics to that song on his last album. I mean, it's pretty gut-wrenching. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's so I'm a very compartmentalized person because I think if I wasn't, I probably would have fallen apart by now. So, it's special to me and it means something to me, but I don't know if I've ever fully let that song in because I just wouldn't want to be an emotional wreck. So, there's just the part of me as a musician that just appreciates that he was able to make that song, that he was able to. I mean, there's so many things like on Letterman when he just throws out "Enjoy every sandwich," and this becomes like, there's T-shirts galore online. Um, his ability to say the perfect thing at the perfect time. I think that my respect for him as a songwriter is more of what I think of when I hear that song as opposed to his kid, because I don't know if his kid can handle that being that sad. But I mean, I love the song and I love playing it whenever you ask me to, and it's a pretty special song.
It's a really special song. When I've gone over to your house and we've done some ADO work, etc., and you were kind enough to let me hold that Grammy, the weight of that Grammy, and I look at it and I think about you as, your father's son being handed that Grammy and your father's no longer here, the specialness of that tangible award. It's not really about the award at the end of the day, but it definitely makes that memory so rock solid. So
Well, I'm being handed it from Ozzy.
how's
That was
tell us
pretty
about that.
great. Um, uh, I gotta say that was the you talk about like preparation, like uh, personal trainer, speech written in my head, everything just in case that moment happened, and I really didn't think it was going to happen. And so if you ever see the clip, when they announce his name, you just see me going because I'm like, holy shit, I have to go up on stage, take this thing from Ozzy Osbourne, try to say something. I couldn't write down my speech because I knew that I'd be shaking, so I had to put it all in my memory. And as you were aware, when we honored Danny Goldberg at the last conference, um, I had my speech totally perfect except when they clapped after his name, and it threw me off. So I was like, Danny Goldberg, clap, clap, great guy, great record label.
No, it was
But it was like the biggest adrenaline rush you could ever imagine. It's like train wreck. And then when I'm trying to give the speech and I'm looking at Madonna and Christina Aguilera and all these people and the show itself, I'm sitting like so close to the stage when Prince and Beyonce are doing their song together, and they had pyrotechnics that were actually hot from where I was sitting. It was pretty wild.
you won't forget that one. You're not going
No.
to forget November 8th either, though. All right, let's before we start Q&A, a couple quick things because your creativity always comes out, and I love that. There's not a 7-second delay when I ask you a question. I've learned that the fun way with you. So let's take it from the top. What's your message to Congress right now?
Wake the fuck up.
Okay, you've heard that here
Stop
for.
blaming each other for bullshit and wake up, because this we are in a bad state right now.
So we have the Alan Reinstein Ban Asbestos Now Act introduced. We have a Republican in the House, and of course, Representative Bonamici in the House and Senator Merkley, our longtime champion. We just need a Republican in the Senate. So if anybody has that member, definitely get with Jordan and myself. So do you have a ban message for Congress when they come back?
Yeah, just do the no-brainer stuff that you're paid to do. Do your job.
I like that. And maybe we'll get a few of you on the 24th to speak from the heart because your voice and advocacy really turns up the temperature. When you say something or other musicians and artists, like with the award that we started named after your dad, when we went to Army Archer's widow's house and whatnot, those awards really matter. And what you do truly matters. So all of you is important, and I dearly, dearly love you, Jordan. Okay, so the last one, not to make you like grab out a tissue and have to blot your eyes, but if you could speak to your father today, what would you tell him about your past 20 years?
I would just, well, first of all, I'd beg for his forgiveness because I've released an entire album's worth of his like old demos and songs that he did in the late 60s, which his friends uh are they're never short of telling me how much my dad hated outtakes being released. So, and I think I'd have the same conversation I had with Jackson, because when I was recording the song Studebaker, we had just put, I think, Excitable Boy with some outtakes on it. And he went, like, out of nowhere, because it's Jackson Browne. Like, I've known him my whole life, but he's still Jackson Browne. He goes, I don't know why you put those out. I mean, we worked so hard on that record. We worked to make it as perfect as possible. Why would you put that out? And I'm like, and I said, did you buy any of the Beatle bootlegs with the outtakes? He's like, oh yeah. So people like to see the process. People like to see, the journey these songs take. So I'd probably have to calm dad down and say, I know, some of this stuff you might not have wanted released. But there's also some songs on Preludes that are some of his most streamed songs, like Steady Rain. And that was a song that I found in a suitcase in a storage bin in the valley. And that entire album is made up of things like that, like acetates and things that I found in the storage space. And I look back on it now and I'm like, it's a damn good record. So I think I'd let him know I kept him busy as promised, and that my sister and I are looking after the estate, and I'd love to go see Die Hard again with you, because that was probably one of the most fun moments I've ever had in my life.
Well, I would tell your father that you're an amazing human and a remarkable father and a creative genius just like your dad. And I love you as part of my family, Jordan. I love you. All
I love
right.
you
So
too.
after all of this chatter, does anybody here? We have Christina here who's from Motley Rice. I'm looking around. Anybody have a question that they'd like to unmute themselves and ask Jordan? We're going to take about 5, 7 minutes for Q&A. Dr. Wolf, any questions? You get to go first.
Thank you. Thanks for that honor. Jordan, you were speaking about about your dad, who I obviously didn't know him personally, but the impression was that he was very stoic. And yet, what you were describing were these moments of vulnerability that he demonstrated to you, his vulnerability in songwriting. It's hard, and obviously, the clips that I've seen of him on Letterman showed vulnerability as a human, of dealing with what he was facing. And you talk about him admitting he was scared. And so I think there's got to be a way for us. I feel like part of the problem with Congress right now and the administration and things that we're dealing with are that there's this fake machismo, some like bravado going on. How do we get them to wake up, even in terms of admitting their own vulnerability. Because I think if we can get them to click and realize they could suffer fates from asbestos related diseases, and probably have, I guarantee these people know people who are affected by this. How do we get them to appreciate that vulnerability?
Well, I mean, I don't want to get too political.
But
But I think that there's a sea change in our future. I think that there is a real lack of humanity in government right now. There's a lack of seriousness. There's a lack of care. There's a a bro mentality that I personally find disgusting. And we that's why we vote. That's why I've never missed an election since I was 18 years old. And hopefully we can start bringing some of that humanity back into existence. But that's the only way, is if everybody stops like this dick waving and starts actually caring for the people who live on this planet. Yeah, it's a hard sell right now because I'm kind of in a daily head spinning of what I see happening.
yeah. Dr. Wolf, hold that thought for a second because next week I'll be seeing you in Philadelphia for the, I don't know, is it the 20th IMIG Conference, International Mesothelioma Interest Group? And you're in a session about prevention. So I think getting surgeons, oncologists, and others together, and you taking back the Jordan, Linda, ADO community message is really important because many times surgeons come in scrubbed, ready to go. They cut and they go. And you know what? That's it. We need everyone in getting a patient to the OR if they're a candidate, whether it's radiologist, oncologist, nutritionist, physician, of course, surgeon. We need everybody at IMEG to wake the AF up and for them to join ADO because you can put your, not you personally, because you are such a great advocate, but the medical community can put down their prescription pad and their scalpel and join Jordan, me, and others, and you and Dr. Flores. We have to move the bill, and it is through your community that will turn up the volume. Just thinking.
Yeah, I mean, this is an era when everyone's focusing on how much we're spending on treating things where we should be spending them on preventing them. And the easiest prevention, this is a no-brainer, we've discussed it several times, is not being supported. It doesn't make sense, but I appreciate it, Linda, and will do. I've
Oh,
been
I know.
tapped.
In fact, you'll probably use your no-brainer, Jordan. Wouldn't surprise me. Thank you, Dr. Wolf.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I do want to very quickly say I appreciate you both saying that appreciating what I do and my partners do. We only do this because we're not talented enough to do what you do, Jordan,
Oh,
or
bullshit.
smart enough to do what Linda does.
Please.
Thank you guys.
We
And
make
thank
we all make a great team.
we do
Uh,
make it.
you make a great team. All right. Speaking of team, I see Greg Russell, career firefighter down there. Greg, do you have a question for Jordan?
Hi, Jordan. It's great to be with you again, and thank you for doing this. Your dad is an amazing artist, and I hate to say, my favorite artist in the world is Jimmy Buffett, and he has covered your dad's songs several times over, and I love his version just as much as I love your dad's version. Um, but being serious here, as you know, I lobby Capitol Hill on behalf of ADAO and the firefighters as it relates to this R-band bill. So I'm always looking for a hook to get their attention. Is there a song of your father's that you think it would be best to illustrate the need for moving our band to get this no-brainer across the finish line?
God, that's a good question. I
That's a
mean,
great.
Lawyers, Guns, and Money is always the song that pops up, but oh man, I gotta.
I find
Oh,
my shit's fucked up.
That's pretty great.
rather moving as well. I just don't know if that's the venue which to.
I think that Don't Let Us Get Sick
That one.
is a pretty memorable one. So like Linda, we were talking about Keep Me in Your Heart. Keep Me in Your Heart is almost like it's so over the top, on the nose, that it's almost like an institution, as far as like the way I react to it. But Don't Let Us Get Sick, that song messes me up.
And that's a powerful one. If people haven't listened to it, I encourage you to get on Spotify.
Yeah. And change your Spotify settings to lossless.
Lost List.
Lossless. Spotify for years has sounded terrible, but they now offer non-compressed music, but you have to go into your settings, and it sounds 20 times better.
Okay, well, we'll have to put that as a wrap up, and you'll.
That's your tech tip for the day.
Thank you, Jordan. You're never remiss in giving me tech tips. We have a very smart lawyer on here. Christina came to our conference. Christina, you're on the spot. Do you have a question for Jordan?
Hi, Linda. How are you?
Crazy, crazy.
I don't have any questions. I'm just listening, happy to be here.
Cool. So, Lawyers, Guns, and Monies, for anybody who follows ADAO's work, we're able to put a conference on because lawyers who get no referrals from ADAO think it's the right thing to support ADAO. So, we have Simmons Hanley Conroy, Jessica Dobbs' firm. I'm not going to name them all off. Motley Rice, Gorey, and Early Lucarelli, Sweeney and Meisenkoten. Those are the four. But people donate to ADAO because it's the so-called right thing to do, and we're grateful. We stand up independently, 20 years of evidence-based advocacy, and we're tough, we're scrappy, we don't stand down. And with Jordan and Dr. Wolf and Greg and others on our team, we are going to get this across. We're not giving up. Jordan, last few minutes, is there a parting message of how people can follow you, follow your work, join in October 24th or November 8th? What do you want to tell your gang?
Oh, Facebook. I'm still on Facebook. I'm not on the X platform anymore for personal reasons. Yeah, just I mean, I'm always around. I've been very lucky to get messages on Facebook from people who've seen Dad in concert, or maybe it was their first concert, or some memorable things. I've had people reach out to me to actually ask if they could play Keep Me in Your Heart at a funeral for a loved one. And it's like, of course, my God. It's that song has really touched a lot of people. And so I'll share it with anybody, but I'm around.
Well, thank you for jumping on this intimate conversation with you and allowing us to listen to you, have you share some details, memories, and moments, and let us share in your excitement. The upcoming tribute concert, and of course, your father's induction into the Hall of Fame is very cool. So, thank you for making this happen. And we're going to call it a wrap as we do in LA.
All righty.
Kisses.
Good. Because to put it lightly, the coffee is working.
Love you, Jordan. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.